In statements today from the DA's office and from the New York Attorney General's office, remember, this has essentially been a joint investigation by those two New York law enforcement entities. In statements from both of those entities and in that exchange in court that I described about why they need a protective order, because, the case is still going on. It was made clear by prosecutors speaking in court, by statements from the defense from the DA and from the Attorney General, made more clear than at least I expected it to be today, that this indictment today isn't it. That in all likelihood, more is coming, that the investigation proceeds. Of course, we believe that the special grand jury that we first learned about last month, the grand jury that's been sitting apparently 3 days a week to consider the evidence in this case, to consider bringing potential charges in this case, we believe that that grand jury will continue to meet for the next 6 months. The New York Times, in fact, reports tonight about what's coming next here, actually in very blunt terms. This is what it says tonight in the New York Times' reporting on the case. Quote, the charges against the Trump Organization and Mr. Weisselberg ushered in a new phase of the district attorney's sweeping inquiry into the business practices of Mr. Trump and his company. While the indictment was narrowly focused on the tax scheme, the charges could lay the groundwork for the next steps in the wider investigation, which will focus on Mr. Trump. Again, that's being reported tonight in those terms by the New York Times. The next steps in the wider investigation will focus on Mr. Trump. Quote, in the next phase of the broader investigation into Mr. Trump and his company, prosecutors are expected to continue scrutinizing whether the Trump Organization manipulated property values to obtain loans and tax benefits, among other potential financial crimes. So there had been some, I think, discussion and speculation that because bank fraud and insurance fraud, manipulating the valuation of various assets to defraud banks and insurance companies and tax authorities, that had been reported as a focus of these investigators, but it wasn't included in this indictment. There had been some discussion today that maybe that wasn't going anywhere and maybe that would never be charged. The way the Times is reporting this tonight, it sounds like that's what's next, with a focus on Mr. Trump himself. We'll see.